The lawyer's office smelled like lemon furniture polish and old paper. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, striping the mahogany table. I sat on one side, my hands folded in my lap. My brother Dale slouched beside me, picking lint off his golf shirt. He'd driven his new Lexus, the one Mom co-signed for last year. Mom sat at the head of the table, leaning on her walker, her face a mask of impatience. Henderson, the lawyer, clear-read his throat. He was young, maybe 30, with a nervous tick of adjusting his glasses. Thank you all for coming. We're here to read the last will and testament of Eleanor Mae Whitaker. Let's begin. He unfolded the document. I focused on the sound of the paper, the hum of the AC. My heart wasn't racing. Not yet. I'd helped Mom clean that house for 20 years, paid her medical bills when Dad died, drove her to bingo 3 nights a week. I expected something, a token, the china set maybe, or the PARL necklace Dad gave her. Henderson droned through the preliminaries, funeral arrangements, debts, executors. Then he paused, looked at Mom. She gave a curt nod to my son, Dale Edward Whitaker. Mr. Henderson, read. I bequeath the entirety of my residential property located at 412 Maple Street, including all fixtures and fittings therein. This includes the Prim Rye residence, the detached and the backyard shed. A wide, ugly grin. He elbowed, whispering just loud enough for the room to hey. Told ya sis, always the golden child. I didn't look at him. I looked at Mom. She was smirking. Just a tiny twitch at the corner of her thin lips, but it was there. That look she got when she'd won an argument with the pharmacist over a coupon. Mr. Henderson continued, listing Dale's inheritance of the investment portfolio, the savings bonds, the jewelry, everything. The house was worth $300,000 in this May market. The portfolio another $200,000, $500,000 gone, just like that. And to my daughter, Susan Mae Whitaker, read. Henderson said, his voice softening slightly, I bequeath the sum of $1 to be paid from the residual estate, for reasons known to her and to me. $1. The room went silent. Even Dale stopped smirking. He blinked, looking at Mom, then at me, confusion flickering across his face. Bah! She threw her head back and laughed, a dry, rasping cackle that scraped my nerves like sandpaper. $1, she wheezed, pointing a garrod finger at me. That's all you're worth, Susie. Always mooching, always complaining. Dale's the one who visits, who takes me to Florida, who deserves it. The house goes to your brother, he'll take care of it, not you. You're too. She reached for the word, her eyes gleaming with malice. Too sensitive, yeah, too sensitive to handle real money. Dale recovered, puffing out his chest. Damn right, Ma. I'll take care of it. Susie can keep her $1. Buy a cup of coffee, huh sis? I didn't move, didn't blink, just kept my hands folded. The $1 clause wasn't a mistake, it was a message. A legal slap in the face designed to ensure I couldn't contest the will on grounds of accidental omission. She'd done it on purpose, to humiliate me, to remind me, even from beyond the grave, that I was the disposable one. Henderson shifted uncomfortably. Whitaker, perhaps we should. Read it, Mom snapped. Let her hear it, let her know her place. She thinks she's so high and mighty with her book club and her volunteer work. But she's nothing, less than nothing. Dale's the provider, the man. I stood up slowly, my knees creaked, but my voice was steady. Mr. Henderson, is the reading concluded? He nodded, swallowing hard. Yes, Ms. Read, unless you have questions. I said. I reached into my purse, pulled out a manila envelope, heavy sealed. I placed it on the table, right in front of Mom. Before you start planning the renovations with Dale's inheritance, you might want to look at this. I would have shown it to you earlier, but you were too busy laughing. Her smirk faltered. Dale leaned forward, squinting at the envelope. What's that? A bill. She finally defaulting on her credit cards. I didn't answer him. I looked at Mom. Her eyes were fixed on the envelope, on the return address in the corner, county recorder's office. Her hand, the one with the arthritis, rotted trembling on the walker's handle. It's the deed, Mom, I said quietly, to 412 Maple Street, dated 3 years ago, signed by you and notarized. To guess whose name is on it. Dale's face went purple. What the hell is she talking about, Ma? The deed, it's mine, the will says. The will says what you told her to say. Dale, I cut in, my voice was ice, but the law says what's on this paper. And it's been saying it for 3 years. While you were buying Lexuses and taking trips to Florida, I was paying the property taxes, the insurance, the roof repair, and 3 years ago, when you convinced her to sign the house over to you for tax purposes, she actually signed it over to me. Because I was the only one who bothered to explain the forms to her. The only one who didn't try to scam her. I picked up the envelope, tapped it on the table. So, go ahead mom. Smirk, give Dale your $. But the house, the garage, the shed. They've been mine since arting re. And this, I gestured to the will, is just a very expensive, very public piece of toilet paper. I turned to Mr. Henderson. Thank you for your time. Please send the $R to my P.O. box. I'll frame it as a reminder of exactly what my mother thought I was worth. I looked at Dale, his mouth agape. Enjoy the legal fees. Little brother. You're going to need them. I walked and looked back. Behind me, I heard mom's walker clatter to the floor. He heard Dale shouting. Henderson's frantic attempts to restore order. But none of it mattered. I got into my 10-year-old Honda Civic, Stie Radayin, and as I pulled away from the curb, I allowed myself a single glance in the rear view mirror. The lawyer's office was shrinking, and for the first time in my adult life, I felt light. The deed was real, the house was mine, and the laugh, that was mine too now. Teach duaf. The Honda's AC was on the fritz again, blowing lukewarm air that smelled faintly of old French fries. I rolled down the window, letting the humid Ohio air whip through the car. My hands gripped the steering wheel. Knuckles white, but steady. I wasn't shaking, not yet. The adrenaline was keeping the tremors at bay. Turning my limbs to lead and my mind to crystal, I drove without thinking, my body on autopilot, following the familiar route from the lawyer's office in Worthington back to my apartment in Clintonville. Past the Kroger where I bought mom's insure, past the CVS where I picked up her prescriptions, past the park where I pushed her on the swings when Dale was too busy with football practice. Each landmark was a needle, pricking the balloon of my composure. My phone buzzed in my purse. I ignored it. It buzzed again and again. I knew who it was. Dale. Mom. Henderson. Wondering if I'd lost my mind, I fished it out at a red light. 5 missed calls, 3 from Dale, 2 from a restricted number. Mom's hospice line. Probably in a text, from Dale. You. Menashiev a fight. Hasiel me. I deleted it, blocked his number, then I blocked mom's. The restricted number could wait. I wasn't ready to hear her voice, not the wheedling, not the threats, not the, after all I've done for you, monologue I'd memorized by heart. The light turned green. I accelerated, merging onto the I-7. The flow of traffic was soothing, a river of metal rying me away from the wreckage. I thought about the deed, about the day 3 years ago when Mom had called me, her voice slurred with painkillers. Suzie, come over. Dale's here. He says I need to sign some papers. For the taxes. He says it's urgent. I'd gone, found Dale in the kitchen, a stack of notarized forms in front of him. He'd waved me off. Chill sis, just helping my out. Tax loophole, saves her thousands. You wouldn't understand the paperwork. He'd flashed that condescending grin, the one that always made me feel like a child. But I did understand paperwork. I'd worked in HR for 20 years, handled benefits, contracts, compliance. I'd picked up the top form, quitclaim deed, transferring ownership of 412 Maple Street from Eleanor Whitaker to Dale Edard Whitaker. I'd looked at Mom. She was dozing in her recliner, her mouth hanging open. I'd looked at Dale. His eyes had darted, just for a second, to the doorway, to the nurse's station. We'd had a private caregiver then, a woman named Myria who'd been with us for 6 months. I'd pulled Dale into the hallway. What the hell are you doing? Relax, he'd hissed. It's for her own good. She's getting older, needs to simplify. I'll hold the house in trust, protect it from Medicaid liens, stand art estate planning. Bullshit, I'd said. You're trying to steal the house. Where's the lawyer? Bussy, he'd snapped. You want to help, or you want to fight? Ma, trust me, not you. You're too emotional, too sensitive. Remember, just sign as a witness if they need it. Otherwise, butt out. I'd stood there, torn, between protecting Mom and protecting myself, between believing my brother and trusting my gut. Then I'd hear Mom stir in the living room. Dale, Suzie, where's my pills? Dale had shoved the pen into my hand. Sign it. Or I'll tell her you're trying to put her in a home. I'd frozen. That was his ace. The threat of institutionalization. Mom feared nursing homes more than death. I'd looked at the pen, at the deed, at Dale's smug face, and I'd made a choice. I'd signed, but not as a witness to Mom signing it over to Dale. I'd signed as a witness to Mom signing it over to me. I'd switched the forms while Dale was fetching Mom's water, used the same Note Republic, a mobile service Dale had called, but presented the correct document, the one transferring the house to Susan Emery Whitaker. Read. Mom had signed it willingly, thinking it was Dale's form. The notary hadn't noticed the switch. Dale hadn't checked the names. He'd been too busy counting his future millions. It had been a calculated risk, a betrayal of trust, but it had been necessary. To save the house from Dale's greed, to save Mom from her own naivety, and to save myself from a lifetime of resentment, I exited the highway, turning onto my street, the familiar row of duplexes, the overgrown lawns, the rusted mailboxes. My apartment was small, but it was mine. Paid for. No mortgage, no Dale, no Mom. I grabbed my purse, and headed inside. The COO air of the apartment hit me, a stark contrast to the humidity outside. I dropped my purse on the counter, kicked off my shoes, and finally, let myself breathe. I walked to the bedroom, opened the closet, and reached behind the shoeboxes, pulled out the fireproof safe, punched in the code. The door clicked open. Inside, nestled among old tax returns and insurance policies, was the original deed. The one I'd filed at the county recorder's office 3 years ago. The one that made me the legal owner of Smirking, Maple Street. I ran my fingers over the embossed seal, recorded August 3. I'd lived with this secret for 3 years. Waiting for this day, for the reading, for the moment I could finally exhale. My phone buzzed again, the restricted number. Hello. Susan. It was Maria, the caregiver. Her voice was tight, strained. You need to come back. Eleanor's, she's not good. Dale's threatening to call the police. He says you forged the deed. He's yelling about elder abuse. And Eleanor, she keeps screaming your name. Begging you to fix it. I leaned against the closet door.
Maria.
Is she in danger? Medically, no. Physically, she's stable. But mentally, she's spiraling. She keeps saying you tricked her. That you stole her life. Dale's feeding it. He's got a lawyer on speakerphone. They're talking about contesting the will, fraud, immediate injunction. I sighed, rested my forehead against the COO metal of the safe. Tell Dale this: the deed is recorded, public record. He can contest it until he's blue in the face. It won't change the fact that the house is mine. And tell Mom. Tell her I'm sorry it had to be this way. But I'm not sorry for saving her from him. And I'm not sorry for saving myself. I hung up before Maria could reply. Sat on the floor, the deed in my lap. The adrenaline was fading, leaving a hollow ache in its wake. I'd won the battle. But it was just beginning. Dale wouldn't go down without a fight. And Mom, she'd never forgive me. But as I sat there, in the silence of my apartment, I realized something. I didn't need her forgiveness. I didn't need Dale's approval. I had the deed, I had the truth. And for the first time in my life, I had the power. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of water, drank it slowly. Then I picked up the phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in years. A law firm down, specializing in elder law and property disputes. Yes, I said when the receptionist answered. I need to make an appointment. My name is Susan Reed. I believe my brother is attempting to defraud me of my legally inherited property. And I have the documentation to prove it. I hung up, a sense of calm settling over me. The laughter in the lawyer's office had been cruel. But my silence now, it was deafening. And it was mine. I walked to the window, looked out at the setting sun. The sky was a bruised purple, streaked with orange. Beautiful, like the truth. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of it. The knock on my apartment door came at 7:03 a.m. Insistent. I'd been up since 5, reviewing the deed, the will, and the notes I'd taken during the reading. I was on my second cup of coffee, the bitterness grounding me. I didn't need to look through the peephole to know who it was. Dale's knock was unmistakable, loud, entitled, like he owned the building. I opened the door. He stood there in yesterday's golf shirt. Wrinkled, smelling of stale sweat and cheaper whiskey. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair mussed. Behind, a squat man in a cheap suit shuffled his feet. Dale's lawyer, no doubt. The one from the speakerphone. Open up, sis.
Dale.
Now. I didn't move, kept the chain on. It's 7 a.m. Dale. I'm not dressed for company. And I'm definitely not dressed for a legal ambush. The lawyer cleared his throat. Ms. Reed, I'm Gerald Finch, Whitaker's attorney. We're here to discuss the irregularities regarding the property at 412 Maple Street. We believe there's been a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding, I repeated. The deed is recorded, Mr. Finch. Public record. There's no misunderstanding. There's only your client's disappointment that he can't steal what's mine. Dale shoved the door. The chain held. You forged it? I know you did. Ma would never sign the house over to you. She hated you, always whining about the past. You tricked her. You took advantage of her dementia. Mom doesn't have dementia, I said, my voice. The neurologist reports mild cognitive impairment maybe, but she's competent, and she signed that deed willingly. Ask Maria, she was there. Aria's a liao, Dale spat. Of course she'll back you up. We're getting a restraining order and an injunction. You're not setting foot in that house until we sort this out. I smiled a cold thin smile. You can try, Dale, but the house is already sorted. It's mine. And as for a restraining order against your own sister over a property dispute, good luck explaining that to Judge Ramirez. She's not fond of frivolous filings. Finch tugged Dale's sleeve. Dale, let's not do this in the hallway. It's unprofessional. Miss Reed, please, just hear us out. Perhaps we can reach an agreement. A buyout, a share equity arrangement. Something to avoid costly litigation. There's nothing to agree to, Mr. Finch, I said. The house is mine. The will is irrelevant, and your client is trespassing. Good day. I started to close the door. Dale stuck his foot in the gap. You haven't heard the last of this. I'll drag you through every court in Franklin County. I'll make sure Ma changes her will again. I slammed the door against his foot. He yelped. I released the chain, opened the door just enough to glare at him. Remove your foot, Dale. Or I'll call the police and report an attempted break-in. And trust, after yesterday's performance at Henderson's office, they'll be very interested in your version of events. He hesitated, then snatched his foot back, cursing under his breath. I slammed the door shut, locked it, and leaned against it. My heart was pounding now, a trapped bird in my chest. I waited, listening to their footsteps retreat down the hall, Dale's voice rising in a furious whisper. Yell. I walked to the window, peered through the blinds. They were getting into a beat-up Camry. Finch's, presumably. Dale slammed the passenger door hard enough to rattle the frame. As they pulled away, he looked up at my window. Our eyes met for a split second. His were filled with pure, unadulterated hatred. I stepped back, letting the blinds fall shut. The adrenaline surge subsided, leaving me trembling. I'd handled it. I'd stood my ground. But the cost was my relationship with my brother. Not that there'd been much of one lately, but this was a bridge burned to ash. My phone rang, unknown number. I answered cautiously. Hello, Susan. From the house. Listen, Dale just left. He's furious. He was screaming at that lawyer the whole way out. And Eleanor, she's asking for you again. She keeps saying, where's Susie? Why'd she do this to me? She's not eating, not sleeping. The hospice nurse is worried. I closed my eyes. She in pain, Maria. Physical pain, no, just agitated. Angry. She keeps trying to get out of bed. Keeps saying she needs to fix the papers. I'm trying to keep her calm. But Susan, she's scared not of you. Of Dale. Of what he'll do when he realizes he's lost. I sighed. I'll come by this afternoon. After my appointment with the elder law attorney. But Maria, I'm not changing the deed. I'm not backing down. I'm just going to talk to her, explain. Maybe she'll understand. Maybe she won't. But I need to try, for closure, Maria said softly. I'll tell her you're coming. But Susan be as full. Dale's not going to stop, and Eleanor, she's fragile. It could push her over the edge. I hung up, a knot in my stomach. I'd expected Dale's rage. I'd expected legal threats. I hadn't expected Mom's fragility. Or, I'd always been the strong one, the CA, the one who cleaned up the messes. But this, I'd made it, by choosing the deed over the lie, by choosing myself over the illusion of family ceremony. I spent the morning preparing for the attorney appointment, organized the deed, the will, Mom's medical records, and a timeline of Dale's manipulations. I practiced my narrative, keeping it factual, devoid of emotion. I needed the attorney to see me as a rational actor, not a grieving daughter. Because I wasn't grieving, I was numb, and angry and tired. At 10 a.m., I left for the law offices of Patel and Anguian. High-rise, expensive carpet. The receptionist, a young woman with a perfect manicure, offered me coffee. I declined. I didn't want anything to soften the edges. I wanted this to be sharp, precise, like a scalp. Mr. Guyan was in his 40s, featured, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He listened without interrupting as I laid out the timeline. The confrontation at Henderson's office, and Dale's ERI morning visit. When I finished, he leaned back, steepling his fingers. Read. This is a compelling case. The deed is prima facie evidence of ownership, recorded 3 years ago, properly executed. Mr. Whitaker's claim of forgery is weak without expert handwriting analysis, and even then, the burden of proof is on him. The will, frankly, it's almost comical. The $1 bequest is a classic pretermitted hair trap, but it fails because the deed supersedes testament intent regarding the specific property. He paused. Whitaker will likely file a petition to construe the will, alleging undue influence or lack of capacity. And he'll use Eleanor's current agitation as Exhibit A. It could get messy, expensive, emotionally draining. A prep read for that, I said. I've been preparing for 3 years, since the day I signed that deed. I'm not looking for a fight, Mr. Nangayan. But I'm not rolling over either. The house is mine legally, morally. Because I'm the one who protected it. From Medicaid, from Mom's own poor judgment. I'll pay whatever legal fees are necessary to defend that. Understood. We'll draft a cease and desist letter to Mr. Finch, and a formal response to any petition they file. But Miss Reed, one piece of advice. Document everything, every call, every visit, every interaction with your mother and brother. And consider limiting contact with your mother, at least temporarily, for your own protection and hers. Dale will try to use your visits against you, claim you're harassing her, coercing her. We need to build a wall of evidence that you're acting in her best interest, not your own. I stood up, extended my hand. Nangayan, for seeing the truth and for the advice. I'll document everything. Stay rotting this afternoon. When I visit Mom, he shook my hand. BCA refull, Miss Reed. Family fights over property. They bring out the worst in people. And the worst is often just the beginning. I left the office, the afternoon sun glow ring off the skyscrapers. I felt a strange sense of resolve. The legal path was clear. The moral path was clear. The emotional path, that was a minefield. But I'd navigate it, because I had to. Because the alternative, letting Dale win, letting Mom suffer, letting the truth be buried, was unbearable. I drove to 4 on 12, parked at the curb. The house looked smaller than I remembered. The paint was peeling, the shutters crooked. Dale hadn't lifted a finger to maintain it in 3 years. Typical. I walked up the cracked path, past the overgrown rose bushes Mom used to prune religiously. Maria opened the door before I could knock. Her face was drawn, tired. She's in the living room. Maria whispered. Sedated, the nurse gave her something, but she's awake, asking for you. I nodded, stepped inside. The familiar smell of antiseptic and old lady perfume hit me. The house was too quiet. No radio. Just the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. I walked into the living room. Mom was in her recliner, a blanket tucked around her legs. Her eyes were closed, but they fluttered open when I entered. She didn't smile, didn't speak, just stared at me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. Hi Mom, I said softly. It's Susan. I came to see you. She didn't respond. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, you stole my house. I sat down in the chair opposite her. No, Mom, I saved it, from Dale, from the state, from being sold to pay for CA you might need later. I saved it because I love you. You love me, she croaked. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. You love me so much you'd steal from me. You'd trick me. You'd make Dale hate me. He's my son. My blood. You're just a girl who never amounted to anything, a disappointment. And now you've taken the only thing I had left to give. Her words were like knives, but I didn't flinch. I'd heard them before. In 1,000 variations, I leaned forward, meeting her gaze. Dale's not your son. Mom, not anymore. He's a predator. He saw you as a paycheck. I saw you as a mother, and yes, I tricked you. Because you wouldn't have listened to the truth. You were too busy listening to him. But the truth is on that deed. And the truth is, I'm the only one who didn't lie to you. I stood up. I'm not here to err. I'm here to tell you I'm sorry. Sorry it had to be this way. Sorry you're hurting. But I'm not sorry for the deed. Because without it, you'd have nothing. And neither would I. Rest now, Mom. I'll be back. But not to talk about the house. To talk about us. If you'll let me. I turned to leave. Her voice stopped me. Susan, I looked back. Tears were streaming down her wrinkled cheeks. Is the house really yours? Yes, I said. It really is. She closed her eyes, a single sob escaped. Then I have nothing left to give him, nothing to fight for. It's over. I walked out, my chest tight. She was right. It was over. The fight for the house. But the fight for her, that was just beginning. And this time, I wasn't fighting for property. I was fighting for a mother I'd never really known. And a peace we'd never really had. I stepped out into the fading light. The air was solar now. I took a deep breath, and for the first time, I allowed myself to cry as, for a house, a mother, and a childhood lost. But beneath the tears, a bedrock of certainty. I'd done the right thing, and I'd keep doing it, until the very end. Tichi Patinayon. The petition arrived on a Tuesday. Certified mail, return address Finch and Dobson, attorneys at law. I signed for it, my hand steady, and write it to the kitchen table. The envelope was thick, ominous. I slid it open with a butter knife inside, a stack of documents. The cover page was a Pisibio Staru Wheel and Farienguntv relief, filed in the probate court of Franklin County. Plaintiff Dale Eddy, R.D. Whitaker, Susan Mae Whitaker Re. The allegations were a laundry list of melodrama. undue, lack of testamentary capacity, fraudulent transfer, elder abuse conversion. I skimmed the pages, my eyes catching phrases like, the defendant preyed upon the plaintiff's ailing mother, and, the purported deed is a forgery, procured through manipulation and deceit. It was laughable, but the legal jargon made it sound terrifying. Dale wasn't just mad, he was going nuclear. The most galling part was the request for an injunction. He wanted the court to freeze the property, prevent me from selling, renting, or even entering the house until the case was resolved, which, in probate court, could take years. He wanted to bankrupt me with legal fees, starve me out and force me to settle. I picked up the phone and called Mr. Nagayan. He answered on the second ring. Ms. Reed. I assume you've received the petition. I said. It's comprehensive, predictable, he corrected. Dale's playing for time and leverage. The injunction is a standard Siri tactic, but we'll fight it. I've already drafted a motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim. The deed is a rock, he can't chip it with allegations. We'll also file a counter motion for summary judgment on the property issue. If the judge sees the recorded deed, she'll toss his claims out quickly. How long, I asked. How long until this is over? If we're allowed to say, the motion to dismiss is heard in 30 days, summary judgment may be, but Dale will drag it out, amend petitions, request continuances, depositions, discovery. It could be 6 months, maybe a year. 6 months, a year of legal limbo, of Dale's harassment, of Mom's declining health. I leaned against the fridge, the cold seeping through my sweater. What about Mom? He mentions her in the petition, says I'm isolating her, preventing visitation. We'll address that in our response. Submit affidavits from Maria, the hospice nurse, anyone who can attest to your appropriate conduct. And we'll request a guardian ad litem, a neutral third party appointed by the court to represent Eleanor's interests. That'll take the wind out of Dale's sails. If the jail reports that Eleanor is safe and uncoerced, his claims of elder abuse evaporate. I closed my eyes, a guardian ad litem, a stranger poking into Mom's life. Judging her, it felt like another violation. Do it, I said. File everything, fight everything. I'm not giving him an inch. Understood, Mr. Ning said. I'll have the motions filed by Friday. In the meantime, maintain strict no contact with Dale. Document all communication with your mother. And Susan, prepare yourself. This is going to get personal. Very personal. He was right. 2 days later the calls started. From cousins, aunts, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Suzy, what's this we hear about you and Dale, fighting over the house, stealing from Aunt Eleanor? Shame on you. The gossip mill was churning, fueled by Dale's version of events. I didn't engage, just hung up, blocked numbers, but the isolation was suffocating. Then came the visit from the sheriff, not a summons, a welfare check. Dale had called in a complaint, claiming I was withholding medication from Mom. The deputy was polite but firm. I showed him the pill organizer, the hospice schedule, and Maria's log. He apologized for the disturbance, but his eyes lingered on the stacks of legal papers on my table. Sympathy, pity, I couldn't tell. I didn't want either. I went to see Mom that weekend. Maria met me at the door, her face grim. Dale was here yesterday, with that lawyer. They stayed an hour. Eleanor was upset after Ards kept saying, I don't want to choose. I don't want to choose, Susan, it's breaking her. I nodded, walked into the living room. Mom was asleep, her breathing shallow, watching the rise and fall of her chest. The woman who'd once thrown a frying pan at me for tracking mud on her clean floor, now looked like a dried leaf, brittle and brown. I reached out, brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. She stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She whispered, You came back. I said I would, Mom, I said softly. Dale was here, she murmured. He cried. Said you were ruining everything. Said I'd die in a gutter, because you took the house. Is that true? Will I die in a gutter? I swallowed. No, Mom. You'll die in your bed, in this house, surrounded by people who love you. Dale's lying. He's scared because the house isn't his, and when people are scared, they say cruel things. She was quiet for a long time. Then, I signed it, didn't I? The paper. 3 years ago. I remember the notary, the pen, but I thought it was for Dale. He said it was for taxes. He said you'd understand. I know, Mom, I said. But I couldn't let him have it. Not after what he did to Dad's tools. Not after he emptied your savings account. Not after he forgot your birthday 3 years running. I had to protect you, even if it meant you hated me. She turned her head, looking at me with cloudy eyes. I don't hate you, Susie. I'm scared. Scared of Dale. Scared of being alone. Now I'm scared of losing you too. Because of the house. You won't lose me, Mom, I said. The house doesn't change that. I'm still your daughter. I still love you. Even when you're mean. Even when you pick Dale. I'm still here. Until the end. Tyar rolled down her cheek. I picked him, Susie, over and over. I picked him because he was the boy. Because your father wanted a son. Because I thought you didn't need me. You were always so strong, so capable. Dale needed me, needed my money, my praise, my excuses. I mistook need for love. And now I've lost you both. I took her hand, her skin was papery. COL, you haven't lost me, Mom. And you haven't lost Dale, not yet. He's just lost his way, but you're still here. And while you're here, I'm not going anywhere. She squeezed my hand weakly, read to me. Susie, like when I was sick as a girl. I fetched the Bible from the shelf. Her mother's Bible. The one with the family tree written in fading ink. I opened to Psalm Arshasen, began to read. My voice was shaky at first, then steadied. The familiar words filled the room, a balm against the chaos outside. Mom's eyes drifted shut, her breathing deepening. By the time I finished, she was asleep. I sat there for an hour, holding her hand, listening to her breathe. The petition, the lawyer, the gossip, it all faded away. In this room, with this woman, none of it mattered. The house was just bricks and mortar. This was family, broken, messy, painful, but real. When I left, Maria walked me to the door. She slept better after you left last time, she said. More peaceful. Keep coming, Susan, please. It's the only thing that calms her. I will. No matter what Dale does, no matter what the court says, I'll be here. The evening sun casting long shadows. The petition was a storm cloud on the horizon, but for the first time, I saw a patch of blue sky behind it. Mom's hand in mine, her whispered apology. These were the things Dale couldn't touch. The things the court couldn't adjudicate. The things that made me richer than any deed. I grabbed the mail. Another certified letter, from the probate court. The date for the hearing on the motion to dismiss had been set. 6 weeks away. I ripped it open, scanned the date, and pinned it to the corkboard above my desk. A deadline. Then I sat down, pulled out my journal, and began to document. October 17. Visited Reed Psalms. She acknowledged signing the deed. Expressed FAR of Dale. Slept peacefully, factual, concise. Evidence. Mr. Nguyen was right. This was going to get personal. But I was ready. I had the truth. I had the law. I had Mom's hand in mine. Dale could petition the heavens. But he couldn't petition a mother's heart. Not anymore. I closed the journal, picked up the envelope from Finch and Dobson, and dropped it in the trash. It was just paper. The real fight wasn't in the courtroom. It was in the living room. And I was winning. T. Postioan. The deposition was scheduled for a Thursday morning at Finch's office in Bexley. I arrived 15 minutes early, clutching a legal pad and a stomach full of acid. Mr. Nguyen met me in the waiting room, his expression reassuringly bland. Remember, Miss Reed, listen to the question, answer only what's asked. Don't volunteer, don't explain. And if you don't know, say you don't know. Finch is going to try to rattle you. Don't let him. I nodded, my mouth dry. We were ushered into a conference room. A long mahogany table. Dale was already there, smirking, flanked by Finch and a younger associate taking notes. Dale looked like he'd slept in his suit. His eyes were bloodshot, his nails bitten to the quick. He was enjoying this, the theater of it. Finch stood adjusting his tie. Ms. Reed, Mr. Nguyen, thank you for coming. We'll be under oath today, so let's keep it civil. Dale, Susan, please raise your right hands. The court reporter administered the oath. My voice was steady as I affirmed. Dale mumbled his. Finch began. Susan, let's ready with the deed. Exhibit A in our petition, dated August Arding R.E. Transferring Sibayishar Maple Street from Eleanor Whitaker to Susan M.A. Whitaker. Read. Did you procure this deed? I did not procure it, I said. I read it, based on my mother's instructions. Instructed by Eleanor. Finch leaned forward. Or instructed by you. Wasn't it you who suggested the transfer? Claiming it was for Medicaid planning. A lie you told to gain her trust. I suggested exploring options to protect the house from potential future creditors, including Medicaid, I corrected. But the decision to transfer ownership was solely my mother's, after I explained the implications of each option, including doing nothing. Finch sneered. And did you explain that doing nothing meant the house would go to Dale, as per her verbal wishes for decades? I explained that intestacy laws would apply if she died without a will, which would entitle Dale to a share, I said. But she had a will. The Arding Iba will, leaving the house to Dale. She was aware of that. And she chose to override it with the deed. Chose or was coerced. Finch pounced. Let's talk about capacity. Exhibit B. Eleanor's medical records from July. Arding R.E. A eufusion disorientation? Yet 3 weeks later she signs a deed. Isn't it true she wasn't competent to understand the transaction? Her UTI read with antibiotics, I said. Per her primary physician's notes, dated August, RE. She was alert and oriented ×3, capable of making financial decisions. I was present during that appointment. The doctor spoke directly to her. She understood. Finch shuffled papers. Emia your CA regiver Exhibit C. Emma Raya's initial statement to Dale. Claiming you switched papers during the signing. Switched them from a transfer to Dale to a transfer to you. True. Mem Ria refined that statement in her subsequent affidavit, I said. She admitted she didn't witness the actual signing, only the aftermath. She assumed I'd switched papers because Dale told her I had, but under oath, she confirmed she saw my mother sign a document, and that my mother seemed clear about her intentions. Or coached. Finch's voice rose. You isolated her, limited visitors, controlled information. You even changed her phone settings so she couldn't call Dale without your permission. Phone records showing restricted outgoing calls to Dale's number for the month of August. Arning RE. That was at Mom's request, I said, my voice tightening. Dale was calling multiple times a day, pressuring her about the house, the taxes, the loophole. She asked me to limit the calls because they caused her anxiety. I was enforcing her wishes, not restricting her autonomy. Her wishes, Dale exploded, leaning across the table. She wished for me to have the house. Everyone knows that. You're a lying. Dale, control yourself, Finch snapped. He turned back to me. Susan, let's talk about motive. You stood to inherit nothing under the Arningiba will, correct $1. So you fabricated this deed to enrich yourself, pure greed. I stood to inherit $1 because my mother chose to punish me for perceived slights. I said, meeting his gaze, not because I lacked value. The deed wasn't about enrichment, it was about preservation. Preserving the house from Dale's mismanagement, from Medicaid liens, from being sold to pay for CA Mom might need. I've spent 20 years maintaining that house, paying its bills, see a ring for its owner. Dale spent 20 minutes signing papers he didn't understand. The motive isn't greed, it's stewardship. Finch's face reddened. He hated the word stewardship. It made Dale look lazy. Stewardship, you mean theft. You manipulated a sick old woman. Objection, Mr. Guillen interjected. Argumentative, moved to strike. Sustained, the court reporter muttered. Susan, during your visit on October 17th, did your mother acknowledge signing the deed? Yes, I said. Did she seem distressed by that acknowledgement? She seemed contemplative, sad, but not distressed. She expressed fear of Dale, not anger at me. Fear of Dale or fear of you, for trapping her. Finch's eyes gleamed. Didn't she say, I'm red of losing you too, meaning she felt trapped by your actions? That you'd forced her into a corner. I paused that phrase, Mom's exact words. How did Finch know? I looked at Dale. He was smirking again. He'd gotten to Maria, paid her off, or threatened her. She said she was scared of losing me because of the conflict the deed created. I said ruefully. Not because I'd forced her into a corner. The corner was built by Dale's greed long before the deed existed. Finch pressed on, but the wind was out of his sails. He'd expected me to crumble, to contradict myself, to admit guilt. Instead, I'd been a stone wall of facts, times, dates, medical terms, legal distinction. He finished an hour later, frustrated, jotting furious notes. As we stood to leave, Dale blocked my path. You think you're smart, sis. With your deeds and your lawyers, you've destroyed this family. Ma's dying because of you. I hope you're happy. Living in that house with her ghost. I looked at him, really looked, at the man I'd shared a womb with. The boy who'd pulled my pigtails. The brother who'd forgotten my birthday. The house isn't a ghost, Dale. It's a shelter. And Mom's not dying because of me. She's dying because she's 93. And you're killing her faster with your lawsuits and your lies. Stay away from her. Stay away from me. The next time you come near us, I'll file for a protective order. And I'll win. I walked out, Mr. Nean behind me. The air in the hallway was stale, but it felt like oxygen after the toxic conference room. We didn't speak until we reached the elevator. You did well, Ms. Reed, Mr. Nguyen said. Very well. Finch has got nothing. The medical records support your timeline. Maria's affidavit, even with the initial confusion, ultimately supports the validity of the deed, and your testimony was unshakable. I'd be shocked if the judge doesn't grant our motion to dismiss. Dale won't stop, I said. Hell, amend the petition. File something else. He's like a terrier with a bone. Let him, Mr. Vinkad. Each filing costs him money, credibility, and each response builds our case. The guy Radian ad litem will be appointed soon. Once she interviews Eleanor, this is effectively over. Dale's fighting a ghost. The real Eleanor, the one who signed the deed, is on our side. I nodded, but my mind was on Mom. I'm scared of losing you two. I'd won the deposition, but had I lost her? Would she ever look at me without seeing the deed, without seeing the divide it had carved between us? I drove to the house that afternoon. Maria opened the door, her eyes red. She's asking for you, again. She's been asking since yesterday. Keep saying, where's Susie? Is she mad at me? I went in. Mom was in bed. The hospice nurse said she was transitioning. Her breathing was labored, the death rattle beginning. I sat beside her, took her hand. It was colder than yesterday. I whispered, I'm here. Her eyes opened cloudy blue. She focused on me, a flicker of recognition. Susie. It's yours. Yes, Mom, I said. It's mine, but you're here. And I'm here. That's what matters. She squeezed my hand, a surprising strength in her frail grip. Good, keep it safe. From him, her eyes drifted shut. Love you, Susie, always. Her breathing slowed. The rattle softened. I sat there, holding her hand, until the nurse came in and confirmed what I already knew. Eleanor Mae Whitaker was gone. Not at first. I just sat there, the silence deafening. The fight was over. The house was mine. The cost was a mother's final breath, a brother's eternal hatred, and a victory so hollow it echoed. I stood up, leaned down, and kissed her forehead. I'll keep it safe, Mom. I promise. As I walked out of the bedroom, Dale was coming down the hall, his face a mask of fake grief. He saw me, stopped. Is she? She's gone, I said. My voice was eerily calm. And the house is still mine. The deed doesn't die with her, Dale. It lives on just like I do, and you're still nothing, just a footnote in her will, and in her I walked past him, out of the house, into the fading light. The deposition was over, the ER was over, but the silence was just beginning, and in that silence, I heard Mom's last words. Love you, Susie, always. Maybe that was the real inheritance, not the house, not the deed, but those 3 words. Worth more than all the property in Franklin County. I got in my car, started the engine. Not toward my apartment, toward the lake. I needed to scream, to cry, to let the grief out, but as I drove, I realized I couldn't, not yet. There was a funeral to plan, a will to execute, a brother to ignore, and a house to keep safe. But tonight, I'd allow myself one thing, one memory, of Mom's hand in mine, of her final confession, of the love that had outlasted the lies. I pulled over at a scenic overlook, the city lights twinkling below. And for the first time since the reading, I let the tears fall, not for the house, not for the will, but for the woman who'd finally, in the end, Char 6. Teach. The funeral was held on a Tuesday, overcast, the kind of gray that seeps into your bones. I'd chosen a modest service at a small chapel near the house. Mom's request, written in a shaky hand on a notepad I'd found in her Bible. Dale had a rug for something grander, a cathedral, a eulogy by the mayor. I'd ignored him. The notepad was dated 3 weeks before the deed signing. Before the lies, it was her last true wish. The chapel was half full. Cousins I hadn't seen in decades. Neighbors from Maple Street. The hospice nurse Maria, dabbing her eyes in the front row. Dale sat opposite me, flanked by his wife and 2 sulky teenagers. He wore a black suit that didn't fit, his face swollen from either grief or bourbon. Probably both. He didn't look at me. Not once. The minister was a gentle man, new to the congregation. He spoke of Mom's devotion to her children, her sharpie, her famous apple pie. He avoided the word "stranged," but the subtext hung in the air like incense. Dale shifted in his seat when the minister mentioned family complexities. Then came the eulogies. Dale went first. He stood, adjusted the microphone, and launched into a rearranged monologue about Mom's unwavering love for him, her golden boy. He described lavish gifts he'd bought hers, most of which I'd later ran were purchased with her own money. Trips they'd taken. She'd hated flying, and he already, to he arts they'd read. She'd complained to me about his absence. It was a performance, and a poor one. The congregation murmured. When he finished, he read at me. Ring me to follow. I stood slowly, walked to the podium. My knees didn't shake. I looked at the gathered faces, then at Dale. I'm Susan, I said, my voice ride in the quiet chapel. Eleanor's daughter. Dale mentioned Mom's love. I'd like to talk about her strength, not the strength to bake pies or write checks, but the strength to face hard truths. 3 years, Mom made a difficult decision. She signed her house over to me, not because I asked, but because she saw what Dale was becoming. A man who viewed her as a bank, not a mother. She was scared of him, scared of the future, but she was clear-headed enough to act, to protect what little she had left. That's the mother I knew, not the one Dale describes, but the one who, in her final months, held my hand and said, keep it safe from him. Those were her last coherent words, and I intend to honor them. Liar, she never said that. You're twisting her words from the grave. His wife pulled him down, whispering frantically. I didn't respond, just returned to my seat. The minister coughed, then hurried through the rest of the service. At the graveside, Dale refused to stand near me during the committal. He tossed his rose onto the casket with a snarl, then stalked back to the limo. Most of the attendees drifted away quickly, avoiding eye tap. Only Maria lingered. I'm sorry, Susan, she said, her voice low. About everything. He offered me money after the deposition, to change my story. I said no, but I think he paid the nurse. The one who was with her at the end. She's the one who told him about your conversation, about Mom saying she was scared of losing you. I looked at the fresh mound of dirt. It doesn't matter, Maria, he can buy witnesses, but he can't buy the truth, or the deed. Thank you for staying honest. She squeezed my arm and left. I stood there alone as the drizzle began, cold droplets on my face, mixing with tears I didn't bother to wipe away. This wasn't mourning. It was an accounting. Mom's life, tallied by a son who'd squandered her love and a daughter who'd safeguarded her truth. Later at the house, now legally mine, though it felt like a mausoleum, Dale showed up with a locksmith. I'd changed the locks the day after Mom died, but he'd hired someone to drill them out. He stood in the living room, surveying the dusty furniture, the untouched dishes in the hutch. Get out, I said from the doorway. I'd called the police non-emergency line before arriving. Officer Reynolds was already in his cruiser outside. This is my house. My left it to me. That deed's a fake. And I'll prove it. You're trespassing? I'm the legal owner, Dale, I said, stepping inside. The deed is recorded. The will is irrelevant. And you're the one trespassing. Officer Reynolds is outside. Want to explain to him why you're drilling locks on property you don't own? Or should I just press charges for criminal damaging? He blanched, glanced toward the window, where the cruiser's lights pulsed dully in the gloom. This isn't over, sis. I'll see you in court. And when I'm done, you'll be the one in jail for forgery. File your petition, I said. Amend it. Append it. Staple it to your forehead. It won't change the fact that Mom chose me. Not because I was the favorite, but because I was the only one who wasn't trying to steal from her. Now get out, before I have you escorted out. He hesitated, then spat on the floor. This house is tainted by your lies. I wouldn't live here if you paid me. He stomped out, the locksmith trailing nervously behind. I watched them drive away, then walked through the silent rooms. The house smelled of dust and old memories. In Mom's bedroom, the bed was neatly made, the Bible on the nightstand. I picked it up, opened to the Psalms she'd asked me to read. A slip of paper fell out, folded, faded. I unfolded it, a handwritten note, in Mom's jagged script, dated 3 days before the deed signing. Suzie, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Dale would have taken everything. The house, the money, my dignity. You were the only one who saw it. I'm sorry I favored him. Sorry I made you feel small. You were always the strong one. The real one. Keep the house, sell it, live in it. I don't see Ari. Just don't let him win. And Susan, I did love you. More than I knew how to show. Mom. I sank onto the bed, the note trembling in my hand. All this time, all the years of slights and insults. And this was her true will. Not the one Henderson read. Not the one Dale championed. This, a scrap of paper hidden in a Bible, confessing her regret and affirming her choice. I folded it, placed it back in the Bible. Then I walked to the window, looking out at the overgrown yard, the cracked sidewalk, the maple tree shedding its leaves. The house was mine, but it wasn't a victory. It was a responsibility. A legacy of a mother's belated honesty and a daughter's relentless protection. I spent the next week cleaning the house, room by, throwing away Dale's accumulated junk. Empty liquor bottles, unpaid bills, letters from creditors. I found more notes from Mom, tucked into drawers, behind picture frames. Regrets. Small acknowledgments of my efforts she'd never voiced in life. They were my inheritance, more valuable than the deed. On the 7th day I called Mr. Nagayan. The funeral's over, the house is secured. What's next? Dale filed an amended petition, he said. Alleging the note you found constitutes new evidence of duress. It's desperate. The judge will see it as a deathbed declaration supporting your claim, not his. We'll file a motion to strike it as irrelevant. The hearing on the motion to dismiss is next month. I expect a favorable ruling. After that, I asked. After that, it's just paperwork, transferring utilities, updating records. And then, peace, Ms. Reed. For the first time in a long time, peace. I wasn't sure I remembered what that felt like. But as I hung up, I looked around the clean, empty house. It was quiet, no arguments, no manipulation. Just the ticking of the grandfather clock, and the rustle of leaves outside. I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and raised it to the empty room. To you, Mom, and to the truth, finally. I drank it down. It tasted like dust and free R7. Tish, the hearing was held in probate courtroom 4B. A small, wood-paneled room with pews for observers and a raised bench for the judge. Judge Ramirez presided. A sharpie-eyed woman in her 60s with a reputation for impatience with family squabbles. I sat, Nungayan at the defendant's table. Dale slouched at the plaintiff's table, flanked by Finch, who looked like he'd aged a decade since the deposition. Judge Ramirez entered, and we rose. She dispensed with pleasantries. Mr. F, you're here on a motion to dismiss. Make it fast. I've read the briefs. They're tedious. Finch stood, sweating. We've amended the petition to include new evidence. A note discovered by the defendant after Eleanor Whitaker's passing. This note suggests Eleanor was under duress when she signed the deed. Influenced by the defendant's constant presence. Influenced or simply he art. Judge Ramirez cut in. Your response. Mr. Guyan stood calm as ever. Your Honor, the note in question is a post-execution sentiment, not evidence of duress at the time of signing. It confirms Eleanor's intent 3 hours prior, as reflected in the duly recorded deed. Moreover, medical records submitted previously confirm Eleanor's competency on the signing date. The amendment is a fishing expedition, lacking legal merit. Judge Ramirez nodded. Do you have any evidence, not speculation, evidence, that Eleanor lacked capacity or was subjected to undue influence on August Sir, Art. Finch fumbled. We have the timing, the UTI, the CA regiver's initial confusion, and the defendant's restrictive control over Eleanor's communications, which was at Eleanor's own request, documented in her medical CAR. Nungayan interjected smoothly, and the CA regiver's confusion was clarified under oath. This is precisely why the motion to dismiss should be granted. The deed is valid, the will is irrelevant. The amended petition adds nothing but delay. Judge Ramirez leaned back. Mr. Finch, I've reviewed the recorder's office records. The deed is stamped, notarized, and indexed. It's a matter of public record. Your client's claim that it's a forgery is belied by the fact that he didn't challenge it for 3 years. Why now? Because he didn't get the house in the will. That's not fraud, Mr. Finch. That's disappointment. Dale surged to his feet. Your Honor. She tricked, Whitaker, the judge snapped. You're represented by counsel, and your counsel is wasting my time. She turned back to Finch. Motion to dismiss is granted. The deed stands. The will is immaterial reg rotting the property. Any further filings on this matter will require my explicit permission and a 5,000 sanction fee. Finch's face drained of color. Why yes, Your Honor. Court adjourned. Judge Ramirez banged her gavel and swept out. Dale stood frozen, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. Finch gathered his papers with trembling hands. I stood, smoothing my skirt. Nungayan touched my arm. It's over. The house is legally, irrevocably yours. I looked at Dale. He finally met my gaze. Hatred. Pure and simple. You haven't won. He whispered. I'll appeal. I'll go to the media. You'll do nothing. I said. My voice, because if you do, I'll countersue for legal fees, emotional distress, and the cost of repairing the locks you drilled, and I'll win, just like I won today. Walk away, Dale, while you still can, before you lose what's left of your dignity. He didn't respond, just turned and stumbled out of the courtroom, Finch trailing behind like a defeated puppy. I walked out into the hallway, the afternoon sun streaming through the windows. It felt unreal. Months of stress, VAR, and legal maneuvering, all dismissed with a few sharp words from a judge. Mr. Nungayan shook my hand. Congratulations. Though I suspect this isn't the end of your brother's harassment, I said. But it's the end of his legal leverage. He can't touch the house now, and that's all he read about. I drove to the house, my house, and stood in the driveway. The for sale sign I'd considered putting up felt unnecessary now. This wasn't a commodity to be liquidated. It was a monument to Mom's late blooming honesty, to my own stubborn survival, to the truth that had outlasted the lies. I spent the afternoon sorting through the last of Mom's things. In her underwear drawer, wrapped in a silk skier, I found the Pierral necklace Dad had given her, and a small velvet box, a simple gold band, Dad's wedding ring. She'd kept it. Through all the fights, all the bitterness, she'd kept the symbol of their vows. I slipped the ring onto my pinky finger. It fit perfect, a tangible connection to the PA rents I'd both loved and resented. I thought about the deed, locked in my safe, and the note, tucked in the Bible, and the ring, now humming on my finger. These were my inheritance, not wealth, but history, not triumph, but truth. That evening, I sat on the back porch, watching the sunset turn the sky to fire. The neighborhood was quiet, no Dale. Just the crickets and the rustle of leaves. I thought about calling someone, a friend, a cousin, to share the news. The family was fractured, the friends had picked sides, the silence was preferable. Instead, I talked to Mom, out loud. You were right, about Dale, about needing to protect the house, and about me. I am strong. Strong enough to do what needed to be done, even if it meant losing you in the process. I hope you know that I did it for you, as much as for me. The wind stirred the maple tree, sending a shower of leaves onto the grass. A response or just nature? I didn't see a it felt like one. I stayed until the stars came out, cold and bright. Then I went inside, locked the door, and climbed the stairs to Mom's bedroom. I lay down on the bed, the ring heavy on my finger, the Bible on the nightstand. For the first time since the reading, I slept without dreaming, without dread, without the weight of the deed pressing down on me. The next morning I called Mr. Nangayan to finalize the property transfer paperwork. One last thing, Ms. Reed, he said. Dale's attorney emailed. They're dropping the appeal, and Dale, he's listed the house for sale online, under his name. I assume you'd like us to send a cease and desist. A real smile. No, Mr. Nangayan, let him list it, let him dream. It'll only humiliate him when the inquiries bounce because the title is clear in my name. And when he realizes no one will buy a house from a man who doesn't own it, maybe he'll finally understand. The house is mine, the truth is mine. And the silence, that's mine too. I hung up, poured a cup of coffee, and walked to the window. Dale's hypothetical listing was his last gasp, a child throwing a tantrum. I didn't need to engage. I'd won the war. He could have the battles. They meant nothing now. I spent the day painting the guest room. A soft, the color Mom had wanted for the nursery I'd never gotten. It was therapeutic, the smell of latex, the rhythmic roll of the brush, each stroke covering the old, revealing the new, like the deed had covered the lie, revealing the truth. As I cleaned the brushes, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me. Susan, a woman's voice, hesitant. It's Brenda. Brenda said right. From the chapel. I attended your mother's service. I found something in the hymnal I took home by mistake. A note from Eleanor to you. My heart skipped. What does it say? Susan, if Dale gives you trouble, tell him about the Florida timeshare. I signed that over to you too. 20. He never knew. Let him stew, love. I sank onto the stool. The phone pressed to my ear. Another deed, another secret. Mom had been busier than I thought. Thank you, Brenda, for calling. I didn't know about a timeshare. It's in the Bible too, Brenda whispered. I saw it when I returned the hymnal. I didn't say anything at the service. Was intense, but I thought you should know. Your mother was looking out for you. In her own way. I hung up, my hand shaking. I walked to the Bible, turned to Ford. Tucked inside was a faded brochure. Sunset Cove Villas, Orlando, FL, and a deed, transferring the timeshare from Eleanor Whitaker to Susan Mae Whitaker. Read. I laughed. A short, sharp of surprise and admiration. Always the strategist. She'd salted the earth behind her, leaving Dale just enough rope to hang himself, and me just enough treasure to keep me afloat. I picked up the phone, dialed Dale's number. It went to voicemail. Dale's. I found Mom's note about the Florida timeshare. Deeds in my name, just like the house. Enjoy your listings. They're as fake as your grief. Goodbye. I hung up, deleted his number, and blocked it. Then I sat down at the kitchen table, the timeshare deed beside the house deed, two monuments to Mom's quiet rebellion, and my own. The ring was over. The WR was won, and the silence, it was no longer empty, it was full of Mom's belated love, full of my one piece, and full of the knowledge that some inheritances are measured not in dollars, but in D. I picked up the timeshare brochure, smoothed it out, and added it to the fireproof safe, next to the house deed, next to the note, next to the ring, my inheritance. The weeks after the ring settled into a rhythm of quiet solitude, I fell into the routine of maintaining the house, cleaning gutters, replacing worn weather stripping, testing the smoke detectors, tasks that grounded me, connecting my hands to the physical reality of ownership. The house, once a source of contention, became a sanctuary. I repainted the kitchen a cheerful yellow, the color Mom had always wanted but Dale had vetoed as common. I planted my marigolds in the flower beds she'd abandoned, their bright orange a middle finger to Dale's gloom. Dale's online listing for the house vanished within a week. I checked daily, a petty satisfaction blooming each time the error message loaded. He didn't call, didn't email, didn't send certified letters. The silence from him was deafening, and I cherished it. Nguyen called occasionally to update me on the final paperwork. Title transfers, utility adjustments, tax, all finalized. The legal noose around my brother's neck had tightened into a knot he couldn't untie. Then, one Tuesday, a letter arrived. Regula R. First, Class Mail. Return address the estate of Eleanor M. Whitaker, Seco Dale E. Whitaker. A single sheet of paper. A final accounting of Mom's estate. Dale had liquidated her remaining assets, the CAR, the jewelry, the savings bonds the will had mentioned. He'd paid himself a caregiver's stipend of $50,000. The remaining $12,000 was to be split equally between us. A check for $6,000 was enclosed. I read at the check. $6,000 blood money. Payment for a lifetime of dismissal, capped with a judicial dismissal. I didn't deposit it. I pinned it to the corkboard art above my desk, next to the petition and the he-ring notice. A triptych of betrayal and victory. That weekend, I visited Mom's grave. I brought the check, and the timeshare deed, and the note about the Florida property. I sat on the damp grass, leaning against the headstone. You were busy, Mom. 2 deeds, a timeshare. And this insult of a check. Did you laugh when you planned it? Did you imagine Dale's face when he realized the house wasn't his? I laughed today, when I saw his listing disappear. It felt good, better than it should, maybe. But after all the years of him taking, watching him get nothing, it's a bomb. I fell silent, listening to the wind rustle the leaves of the maple tree planted nearby. I'm keeping the timeshare, Mom. I'll donate it to a charity for widows. Let someone enjoy it who isn't scheming. And the check, I'm framing it, next to the deed. A reminder of what you thought I was worth in public, versus what you gave me in private. The deeds, the notes, the ring. Those are worth more than all of Dale's stolen thousands. I stood brushing off my pants. I miss you. Not the you who favored Dale. The you who wrote the notes. The you who, in the end, chose truth. I'm sorry it took so long, but I'm glad we had those last weeks. Even if they were shadowed by the will. You were right, you know. About him. About me, about the house. I wish you'd told me sooner. Saved us both the years of pretending. Then paused. Oh, and Mom, I'm not selling the house. Not yet, maybe not ever. It's not just bricks and mortar. It's where you finally told me the truth. And where I finally found the strength to believe it. That's worth more than any MA rocket value. Back home I framed the check. Beside it, I hung the 2 deeds. The house and the timeshare. And the notes from the Bible and the hymnal. A gallery of Mom's secret rebellion. I sat in the living room. Stead a ring at the display. It wasn't art. It was evidence of a double fought in whispers and signatures. And I was the sole survivor. That night, I slept in Mom's bed. The ring on my finger, the Bible on the nightstand. I dreamed of her. Not the frail woman in the recliner, but the vibrant mother of my childhood. Her hair to arc, her laugh loud. She was holding the deeds, smiling. Well done, Susie. Well done. I woke before dawn. The dream fading but the warmth lingering. I made coffee. The scent filling the quiet house. As I sipped it, I realized something profound. The fight hadn't been about the house, or the money, or even the will. It had been about being seen by Mom. As capable, as loved, and in the end, she had seen me. Not loudly, but truly. In the language of deeds and notes and a final, defiant signal. Dale called the next day. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. His voice was slurred, defeated. Susie, I need help. The money's gone, the lawyer's fees, the taxes. I'm broke. Ma's estate is empty. Can you loan me some? Just until I get back on my feet. I listened to his ragged breathing, the golden boy begging. I thought about the 6,000 check, Zalozin he'd stolen, the house he'd lost, the dignity he'd squandered. No, Dale, I said softly, I can't. And you shouldn't ask. You made your choices. You stole from Mom. You lied about the house. You dragged us through court. And now you're facing the consequences. That's not my burden to bear. It's yours. Please, sis, I'm your brother. You stopped being my brother when you called me a thief at the lawyer's office. I said, when you drilled my locks. When you tried to erase Mom's true wishes. You're a stranger now, one I pity, but don't trust. And I don't lend money to strangers. I hung up, blocked the number. Then I walked to the gallery wall, tracing the frame of the house deed. Begging. I said no. I think you'd be proud, not because I was cruel, but because I finally learned the lesson you taught me. Protect what's yours, even from family. I spent the rest of the day organizing Mom's recipes. She'd written them on index CA rods, stained with flour and grace. I'd add them to the safe. Not because they were valuable, but because they were hers. Like the deeds, like the notes, like the ring. Pieces of a puzzle I was finally assembling. That evening, I ate her apple pie. The kitchen filled with the scent of cinnamon and baked apples. I ate a slice at the kitchen table, watching the sun set over Maple Street. The house was quiet, the battles were over, the wounds were healing, and for the first time, I felt not like a daughter, or a sister, but like a woman who'd reclaimed her inheritance. Not just of property, but a self. I carried the pie plate to the backyard, left it on the picnic table for the Raxi omens, a small offering to the ghosts, to the truth, to the silence that was finally, blessedly, Tust. Autumn arrived, painting Maple Street in hues of amber and rust. I fell into a deeper rhythm, the house absorbing me as much as I maintained it. I replaced the worn carpet in the living room with a rodwood. Mom's preference, though Dale had insisted on carpet to hide the dirt. The scent of sawdust and polyurethane was cathartic, a physical manifestation of renewal. I hung Mom's recipes on the kitchen wall, their stained cards a testament to a life lived in service to others. And I began sleeping in the master bedroom permanently, the ring on my finger, the Bible on the nightstand. It felt less like occupying her space and more like inhabiting my own. Dale's name surfaced only in whispers from neighbors. He'd moved out of his rented house, his Lexus repossessed. Rumor had it he'd taken a job as a night manager at a gas station across town. I didn't verify, didn't see. His downfall was complete. And my indifference was the final nail in his coffin. Then in late October, a certified letter arrived, not from Dale, from a law firm in Orlando, Sunset Code at 412B. The annual maintenance fees were due once $200, a bill. Not, Mom hadn't fully salted the Yeroth, she'd left me a recurring expense. A genuine, belly, deep laugh that echoed through the empty house. Of course, leave me the asset, but stick me with the upkeep, classic Mom. I called the resort, a perky representative answered. How can I help you enjoy your vacation home? I'm calling about Unit 42B, I said. I've inherited it. I'd like to donate it to a charity, immediate, with all back taxes and fees transferred to the recipient. A donation, how wonderful! We work with several charities. Let me pull up the account. Eleanor Whitaker, yes, here it is. Maintenance fees indeed due, and there's a special assessment for hurricane reinforcements. Another 800. Thousands. Shall I process your donation today? $2,000. To give away a property I didn't want. I calculated quick. My savings could cover it, really, but it felt right. A final payment to sever the last tie to Mom's secret rebellion. Process it, I said. Donate it to a charity for widows. And send me the paperwork for my records. Absolutely. And Ms. Whitaker read. Thank you for your generosity. Sunset Cove appreciates your support. The weight of the timeshare lifting. It wasn't just a donation, it was a cleansing. I was washing my hands of Mom's hidden machinations, keeping only the parts that mattered, the notes, the ring, the house. The rest could drift away to widows who'd appreciate a free week in Orlando. The paperwork arrived a week later, a certificate of donation, stamped and sealed. I added it to the fireproof safe, then sat at the kitchen table, reviewing the contents, the house deed, the timeshare redonation, the notes, the ring. The sixth, still pinned to the corkboard, a lifetime of conflict, distilled into a handful of documents. I thought about Dale. About what he'd say if he knew I'd donated the timeshare. He'd probably scream about wasted value. About how he could have sold it. About how I was throwing away his inheritance. But he didn't know. And he never would, because I'd cut him out. Not just legally, but emotionally. He was a ghost haunting someone else's story. That Sunday, I attended church for the first time since the funeral. Allah Arger, anonymous Rish across town. I sat in the back, listening to the sermon on forgiveness. The minister spoke of letting go of resentment to heal the soul. I thought about Dale, about Mom, about the years of bitterness, and I realized I'd already forgiven them. Not because they deserved it, but because I deserved peace. Holding on to anger was like drinking poison and expecting them to die. I'd stopped drinking. After the service, a woman introduced herself. Susan, I'm MRJ Rhett from the hospice. I was Eleanor's nurse for a short time. Before the end, I just wanted to say, she spoke highly of you, in her lucid moments, said you were the strong one. The one who'd do right by the house. I'm glad it worked out. I blinked back sudden tears. That means more than you know. She squeezed my hand and drifted away. I sat in the pew stunned. A stranger's kindness, validating Mom's final affirmation. It was the benediction I hadn't known I needed. I drove, the autumn sun through the windshield. The house welcomed me with its familiar creaks and scents. I walked through each room, touching the walls, the furniture, the hardwood floors. Mine, not by theft but by truth, by mom's reluctant admission, by the court's firm decree, by my own unwavering persistence. That evening, I hosted a small dinner for Maria, just lasagna, salad, and mom's apple pie. I thank you for their roles in the battle. Maria cried when she saw the renovated kitchen. It's so bright, Susan. Eleanor would have loved it. Nangayan raised his glass, truth. And to those who have the courage to stand by it. We ate, laughed, and she read stories, not of the lawsuit, but of mom's quirks, her insistence on ironing socks, her fear of thunderstorms, her secret stash of chocolate in the flour canister. For the first time, I remembered her with fondness, not resentment. The bad years were fading, eclipsed by the good memories I'd reclaimed. After they left, I washed the dishes, the warm water soothing my hands. I looked around the clean, shining kitchen, the gallery wall in the living room, the rodwood floors, the marigolds blooming outside. This was my life now, not defined by Dale, or Mom, or the will, defined by me. By my resilience. I climbed the stairs to the master bedroom, the ring seal on my finger. I opened the Bible to the Psalms, read the verses Mom had me rack. Then I closed it, turned off the light, and lay down. The house sighed around me, settling into the night, and I slept, not just without dreams, but with a quiet contentment. The dust had settled, the ghosts were at rest, and I was finally Shitarsh, Tishi, Seely. 5 years pass like pages in a well-read book. The seasons, the maple tree outside sheds its leaves and buds anew, and I, Susan, settle into the rhythm of a life reclaimed. The house at Sibayushar Maple Street is no longer a battleground but a home, my home. I've restored the original rodwood floors Mom always loved, painted the walls in shades of cream and sage, and filled the garden with the roses she used to tend. On the mantelpiece sits a single framed photograph, Mom and me at my high school graduation, her arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling, unaware of the decades of strife to come. Beside it in a small velvet box, Dad's wedding ring, my daily reminder of enduring vows. Dale's ago, I catch glimpses of him sometimes, loading trucks at a Woori House district, his shoulders hunched, hair thinning. We don't speak, don't acknowledge each other. The gulf between us is an ocean I've no desire to cross. He lost more than a house, he lost a sister. And I gained more than property. I gained myself. The 6,000 check remains pinned to my corkbow art, yellowing now, a relic of Mom's final insult, transformed into a testament of my restraint. I never cashed it, never will. It's not about the money. It's about the principle. Let it hang there as a reminder of what she thought I was worth in public, versus the deeds, the notes, the ring, the truth of what she valued in private. Today is my 40th birthday. No PA Roddy, no guests, just me in the house. I spend the morning baking Mom's apple pie. The kitchen filling with the scent of cinnamon and nostalgia. I eat a slice at the kitchen table, watching the sunlight filter through the lace curtains Mom crocheted. The same curtains I'd almost thrown out in a fit of bitterness, now cherished for their fragile beauty. After lunch I walk to the backyard, where a new addition stands, a simple wooden bench, carved by my own hands, running my fingers over the grain, feeling the smoothness I'd sanded into existence. It's my masterpiece, not for sale, not for show, just a place to sit and remember. I think about the journey, the will reading, the deposition, the hearing, the silence that followed. Each step had been a carving away of lies to reveal the truth beneath. Like a woodworker shaping a bowl, I'd chipped away at deception until the real inheritance emerged. Not wealth, but wisdom, not property, but peace. Asarardinal lands on the fence, its red feathers bright against the gray wood. I watch, remembering Mom's belief that Rodinals were visits from loved ones. When you see a redbird, Susie, it's your dad saying hello. I smile. Maybe she's right, maybe today, on my birthday she's here, not to gloat, but to see the life she inadvertently gifted me, the life I fought for and won. I stand, walk to the gear and pluck a marigold, see a riot to Mom's grave, a 10-minute walk from the house. I place the flower on the headstone, tracing her name with my finger. Happy birthday to me, Mom, and to you, wherever you are. I kept the house safe, from lies, from regret, and I kept myself safe too. Leah ran to stand alone, to trust my gut, to value truth over approval. Thank you, for the deeds, for the notes, for the ring, and for the silence, the blessed, healing silence. I pause, listening to the wind. I'm not angry anymore, not at you, not at Dale, just tired of the fight, ready for the quiet. And Mom, I'm happy, truly happy, in this house, with my routines, my peace. You'd hate it, probably, too quiet, orderly, but it's mine, and that's enough. I turned to leave, then then stop, reach into my pocket, pull out a small envelope, inside, a copy of the final court order, dismissing Dale's petition. I tuck it into the flower arrangement on the grave, a final punctuation mark on the war. Let it flutter there, a white flag of truce in the autumn breeze. Walking home, I passed the house where Dale grew up, the one Mom had favored him with. It's dilapidated now, the paint peeling, the yard overgrown, a metaphor for his life. I don't pity him, pity is for the weak. I feel nothing, a vast, empty plain where resentment used to thrive. It's not forgiveness, it's indifference. And indifference is the greatest victory of all. Back at the house, I pour a glass of iced tea, sit on the front porch, and watch the neighborhood awaken from its afternoon lull. Kids ride bikes, a dog bee, a lawnmower hums, the very thing Mom had disrupted with her favoritism. Dale with his greed and I, the unwanted daughter, have reclaimed it. I pick up the book I'm reading. A biography of Eleanor Roosevelt, a woman who knew about Sia Arving's strength from adversity. I read a passage. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Mom had tried, Dale had tried, but I'd withdrawn my consent, and in doing so, I'd become superior, not to them, but to the versions of myself that had accepted their judgments. As the sun painting the sky in strokes of pink and gold, I close the book. The day is done. Another year older, another year wiser, another year. I stand, stretch, and walk inside, lock the door, not against Dale or thieves, but against the past. The house is quiet, the gallery wall glows softly in the lamplight. The deeds, the notes, the check, my history, my truth, my silence. I climb the stairs to the master bedroom, the ring arm on my finger. I open the Bible one last time, to the Psalms Mom loved. I read the 23rd, my voice steady in the quiet. Then I close it, place it on the nightstand, and lie down. The house settles around me. The pipes tick, the floorboards creak. The silence is profound, and in that silence, I hear it, not Mom's voice, not Dad's serotonin, my own heartbeat, steady, strong. I close my eyes, a smile on my lips. The Dad journey was never mine. The Mom journey was a battlefield. But this is the Susan journey. And it's just beginning.